Listen to the rhythm of the falling rain, telling us just how dry Denver's been. Wettest day in a year was in the books by the time some people got out of bed this morning. A warning from firefighters on the eastern plains that we cannot ignore the power of grass fires this year. The governor pitches property tax relief, as our pesky political guy points out that some of that money would have gone back to taxpayers anyway. And a true Colorado adventure. 9 miles on a bike, 9 ski runs, 9 holes of golf, 9 innings of baseball. All in a day. A family tradition that keeps picking up new people. It's the most Colorado thing we've seen today, unless you can top it. Next. What a damp delight today has been. I mean, if we wanted 200 days like this, we'd move to Seattle. But one wet day on a dry state that's primed to burn, we'll take it, and more like it. Wettest day in Denver in nearly a year. Airport measured 9/10 of an inch of rain today, most in a day since May 30th of last year. They got an inch or more out on the plains for the farmers and ranchers in Yuma, Sterling, and Ray. They've been under severe drought lately. And of course, the fire risk. Marshall Fire happened in the Front Range suburbs, but it gave us a glimpse of how fast-running grass-fed fires can spread in high winds. They're more typically seen out on the eastern plains, where firefighters tell our Steve Stager they are seeing ever more powerful fires lately.
This was the largest we had by some great margin.
When winds ripped through Kiowa County in southeast Colorado a couple of weeks ago, Sheriff Forrest Frazee found himself having to do something he's never had to do before.
One of the county foremen had gotten a maintainer, and he was the only thing that stood between the fire and the town of Brandon.
He ordered evacuations for entire towns, the town of Brandon and the town of Shivington, because of a fast-moving fire.
This one actually ran about 15 miles.
It took coordination of crews from out of town to finally get it under control. That fire, one of 2 major fires in that region this season. The latest last night, just south of Kiowa County. It caused pre-evacuations in the town of Holly.
Climatologically speaking, the springtime months, particularly once we get into April, are good weather conditions for wildfire activity on our plains.
Becky Bollinger is Colorado's assistant state climatologist.
But this April has been anomalous for a couple of reasons.
First, she says, you factor in the long-term drought. Then the fact that there was virtually no moisture in the plains in the last month. This was also one of the windiest Aprils in recent memory. And of course, there's a climate change component.
While we can't specifically attribute this specific thing happened because of climate change, we do know that climate change is going to make some of these events more likely to occur, or that they will occur more frequently.
Sheriff Frazee is a lifelong resident of Kiowa County. He says it's been years since he remembers fire this bad.
Not since the 50s, okay? I can remember prairie fires in 50 when we had no way to fight them.
The difference with the prairie fires the sheriff remembers from the 50s, he says back then, you didn't have the equipment to get them under control quickly. In the years since, fire crews have been able to get a better handle on those fires before they blow up. But this past month, the wind has been driving these fires so quickly, Kyle, that he tells me in one case during that fire on April 22nd, you had someone in a fire truck who could not keep up with the fire. And when he said that to me, all I could remember was the Marshall Fire. We heard that from crews on the ground too, that they could not keep up with how fast the wind was driving that fire.
We so often talk about either high country or wild and urban interface fires and forget the real danger that those grass fires pose. I mean, in terms of firefighters' lives, that's where we've lost firefighters' lives.
Absolutely. They're trying to hold a line, and not just firefighters. In some cases, you've got farmers out there with tractors digging lines just to try to stop fire from advancing into a town.
It could be a brutal, brutal summer. All right, Steve, thank you. A police officer in Johnstown lied about a pursuit that happened on all days Christmas, and he got canned for it. Officer Jacob Blackburn was fired for fudging the details of a police report around the pursuit of a stolen vehicle. Blackburn initially wrote in his report that he and another officer chased a stolen truck on I-25 back on December 25th. The truck was later found abandoned. Driver was never found. Initially, Blackburn justified the pursuit by saying that it was a stolen vehicle, but department policy says you can't pursue a suspect unless there's a violent felony involved or stopping them as a matter of public safety. Stolen vehicle won't cut it. When challenged, Officer Blackburn tried to change the story, said the driver had swerved into his lane trying to hit him. Attempted assault on an officer would be a felony. Body camera footage and a radio recording didn't back up those claims. She was fired for violating chase policy and lying about it. One of the Aurora police officers accused in the death of Elijah McClain argues that it was the dose of ketamine given to McClain on the night of his death and not a chokehold that killed him. Officer Nathan Woodyards asking the judge to dismiss indictments against him, according to a motion filed by his attorney back in March. McClain died in 2019 after an interaction with police. He was thrown to the ground and put in what's called a carotid hold. Paramedics came to the scene and gave him ketamine to sedate him. McClain died several days later. Woodyard and the other two officers, Randy Rodema and Jason Rosenblatt, faced charges for McClain's death. So do two paramedics, Jeremy Cooper and Peter Chunick. In a motion filed on March 18th and recently obtained by our partners at the Denver Gazette, his attorneys claim that the medical expert testimony shows that it was the ketamine and not the hold that killed Elijah McClain. Woodyard's asking a judge in Adams County to dismiss the indictments against him, saying there's not enough evidence to support those charges. Republican leadership at the State House could look different in both chambers next year. Republican Senate Minority Leader Chris Holbert announced today he's resigning. Senator Holbert's leaving the state Senate at the end of the month, and he's moving to Florida. Says he and his wife want to be closer to family and to pursue careers in the private sector. He'll step down from his post as Senate Minority Leader on May 15th. So the Senate caucus will meet at the end of the session, the Republicans will, and elect Holbert's replacement. Whoever wins could take over for him on the 16th. He was at the end of his term in office anyway. Meanwhile, in the House, GOP Colorado House Minority Leader Hugh McKean's getting a primary challenge, so it'll be two new people in Republican leadership roles for the next legislative session. Tax relief could be coming to a property near you, and some of that money would have been coming to you anyway. It's another election year announcement by Democratic Governor Jared Polis that needs some context. So politics guy Marshall Zellinger has it.
This proposal is $700 million of property tax release over 2 years.
It's another news conference with one of those ready-made signs to announce a bill to save you money, including money you already would have saved. Democratic Governor Jared Polis announced a property tax relief bill. I've shown you this equation in the past. This is how your property value is converted into taxable value to figure out how much you owe in property taxes. The bill announced today would temporarily reduce this number, the assessment rate, meaning you would owe fewer dollars in property taxes next year. But some of the money you would be projected to save is future money you would have been refunded under TABOR, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights.
How much of this is money that would have been refunded to residents at some point over the next 2 years anyway?
Let's see.
Earlier in this news conference, Polis said owners of a $500,000 home will save $274 on property taxes next year.
We're doing a little math for you, Marshall.
They're trying to figure out, of the estimated $274 in property tax relief, how much would be refunded at some point without this bill, refunded because of TABOR.
Somewhere around $50 of the 270 had to be refunded some way.
This bill isn't simply to save residents money, but also to discourage Colorado Concern, a business-led group, from going to the ballot with an even bigger property tax savings proposal. The only reference to that proposal was by Denver Metro Chamber CEO J.J. Ament.
Thank you to the business community, our friends at Colorado Concern, and others who've helped elevate this issue.
Because some of the savings comes from TABOR refunds already expected, Republican State Representative Colin Larson, who is working with Colorado Concern, is not sure he's ready to ditch his ballot issue.
We're not actually delivering $700 million of relief. We're delivering $500 million of relief, and then $200 million of relief the taxpayer was already going to get. We're just front-loading it so they see it sooner and so that they can take credit for it.
That ballot issue that Representative Larson was talking about could still end up on the ballot. It would mean a greater savings for property owners if people voted yes, if voters voted yes. This is supposed to be a compromise. Whatever savings we as property owners means local government would miss out. Cities, counties, schools, parks, fire, all that would get less since we're paying fewer dollars in the property tax. This proposal by the governor and the legislature would use some general fund money that the legislature can control, and that would make up some of what local governments would miss out, even though we'd be paying fewer dollars in property tax.
So the idea would be give people some kind of property tax relief, but not completely strip tons of funds away from local governments.
Right, because if you pay fewer dollars in property tax, that's less money for the local governments, but this way there's this mechanism that some of the overage that the state has to play with in the piggy bank, they can filter it toward the local governments so that they're not hurting. They're still going to get a bump. It's not like they're reducing local governments. Local governments and property taxes were going up. We're just like cutting into that overage a little bit.
Yeah. Smart question, though, to ask how much of it was coming back anyway, but they just simply want the credit for it. Marshall, thank you. So Governor Polis and Democrats are swooping in to save Coloradans from the burden of a gas tax hike passed by Governor Polis and Democrats. A bill delaying the tax increase until after Election Day, brazen even by political standards, now just needs the governor's signature. Last June, the governor signed a transportation bill including a new fee for gas and diesel that started at 2 cents per gallon in July, increased to 8 cents per gallon by 2028. The plan by Democrats to save Coloradans from Democrats' own tax increase delays it until April 2023, safely after Election Day. So you will hear about Colorado's urban-rural divide, and certainly real. So too, though, is the willingness of Coloradans on the Front Range to support nonprofit causes in rural areas, and vice versa. I mean, I see it week after week with your Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns. Last week, you raised more than $23,000 for Los Animas Helping Hands. They provide food and emergency support and budgeting classes for people in southeastern Colorado. This Wednesday, it'll be your 100th Word of Thanks campaign. We're going to do something special. We will support 3 exceptional causes all at once. And for the first time, partner with another group of givers in our community who also pool their donations together to make a bigger impact. Details on that on Wednesday. Elitch Gardens is now open for the season. We wondered how many more seasons in that spot, since its current location is slated for development. And teenagers open up about mental health with their parents listening. That's the point, and it's next. Elitch Gardens opened this past weekend without a big construction site next door. We don't know how many more years that will happen, because there's a massive development project that's planned for the land right next to Elitch's, and eventually for Elitch's itself. Remember all the talk about that River Mile project when it was announced in 2018? Developers called it an urban waterfront district in 62 acres along the South Platte. Be high-rise condos, restaurants, retail, schools, entertainment, they say affordable housing as well. The long-term plan calls for the relocation of Elitch's itself. Whole thing was supposed to start construction late last year. Obviously, that didn't happen. Denver's planning department told us today the project is still on. It's in the permit phase. Work to prepare the river and the site next to it is expected to begin later this year. Building construction would come after that. The developer, Vesco Properties, has not applied for any construction permits yet. All of that would still just be phase 1 of the project, and that's in the Elitch Gardens parking lots. The relocation of the amusement park itself is in a later stage, so we're likely talking years into the future.
Hello, May. We love the cloud cover, we love the rain, we love the snow. The cool temperatures, not everybody happy with that. Low 40s today, that's about 20 degrees cooler than average, but it all changes tomorrow. Our latest storm is moving out, setting off a line of severe storms. Omaha, Kansas City, down to Oklahoma City. There's another system that's coming toward Colorado, but won't get here for another 24 hours. So other than low clouds and fog tonight, we'll see a little bit of rain and snow in the high country tomorrow. Denver has a dry night and basically a dry day tomorrow after a cold start. Lows in the 20s and 30s, and that means freeze warnings are in effect for much of southern Colorado. Temperatures warm up a bit ahead of the Wednesday storm. Cool day with more showers and then a beautiful string of days heading into the weekend.
The kids are not all right. Adults who realize this are trying to get involved early.
Mental health doesn't have an age. It affects you when it affects you, and that's just the hardest part.
Today, young Coloradans had a chance to talk about their mental health with each other and their parents. That's next. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for Colorado's teenagers. Rick Padilla lost his son 3 years ago. Today, he led a youth summit at DU, trying to break through the stigma of talking with teenagers about mental health. Our Byron Reed was there.
The topic of suicide out of the darkness and into the light.
We want to hear young people's voice in terms of what we should do as a community to address the emerging mental health issues of our young people. I'm Rick Padilla. I work for the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment, and I focus on suicide prevention. We lost our son, Jack. He was 15 years old. He was a freshman in high school. He died by suicide.
If you're hurting, today's the day to reach out.
This is the first annual We Got This event.
The goal being to give them some hope, give them resources, and give them a platform to talk about mental health. So it's really important that we give these kids some hope. My name is John Padilla. I graduated from Montana State University, and I lost my little brother, Jack Padilla, to suicide in February of 2019. I hope that students take away from today that they're not alone in their suffering, and that there is hope for them, and that there are adults and peers that are fighting for them.
I've almost lost myself to suicide, so it's really important that I'm here. I'm Lily. I'm a senior at Cherry Creek High School, and I've been working on this summit for over 2 years with Rick Padilla and his son, John Padilla. We're going through a lot, and what most adults don't realize is we know what mental health is before they think we do.
It lets these kids know that they're not struggling alone. And that's something I think that really could have helped save Jack's life.
COVID has really been amplified for young people. Isolation, the lack of peer connection. We're just, I think, beginning to see an emergence of a lot of the mental health issues.
Mental health doesn't have an age. It affects you when it affects you, and that's just the hardest part.
So don't feel alone.
Without events like these, the conversation won't be open. And if the conversation isn't open, it puts a lot of teens in danger.
That there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that you have lots of people your age and older than you that want you to live.
If you stick with it and you reach out and you get the help that you need, it does get better.
We all need a little hope and community in caring for one another today.
So you know the old Colorado Challenge, you can ski and golf in one day, and you know the 999 when people add 9 innings of Rockies baseball to that. Well, there's a family that decided to add a 4th challenge to the same day. That's next. Turning the famous 999 into a yearly family tradition and then adding an extra 9 to boot. I would say that's the most Colorado thing we've seen today. Larson Family Day of 9 starts with a 9-mile bike ride and then 9 ski runs, followed by 9 holes of golf, and ends with 9 innings of Rockies baseball. 9999. Ethan Larson tells us his family started doing this back in the early 2000s. It was just his parents and his brothers back then. They haven't had more kids. No, those are other people. The crowd has grown with family and friends and neighbors and all sorts of folks. This year they had 40 people taking part in all 4 of their events. The youngest person, they say, was 13. Oldest was 65. 9999. Busy day. Send us the things that just say Colorado to you. Snap a picture or video, email it to next@9news.com, or tweet us using the hashtag #HeyNext. Tammy writes in to note about our story on Elijah McClain's death to remind us that Elijah McClain should never have been stopped. That is absolutely correct, Tammy. Police did not have any cause to stop that young man that night. Also worth remembering that people who are stopped by law enforcement for a good reason also don't deserve to die. Bo says maybe Democrats are realizing the costs for constituents are higher now than when the gas tax passed, but go ahead and spin it how you want. It's not spin to tell you that they're stepping in to prevent the tax increase that they themselves passed. Reasoning aside, we'll see you next time.